Hi, it's Paulie here. Ooh, we've got black plum wine, which tastes exactly the way you kind of wished pirate rum tasted when you were a kid. And then you tasted rum and decided, yeah, but this is like, oh God, nectar. Anyway, so, hi. I wanted to share something with you, which is, I think is one of the most utterly superb pieces of game design ever done. And it is based on the work of just my favourite author. I learned so much from this man. The works of Jack Vance just absolutely lit up my life. I discovered them as a teenager and I continue to read and reread his work today. He was kind enough to correspond with me fairly frequently in life. A lovely gentleman. His command of prose, his command of the creation of cultures, and particularly of wonderful little sort of didactic situations. Just immaculate. If you only read 2 novels in your life, read Kugel's Saga and Rialto the Marvellous. They're part of a collection which are generally called the Dying Earth collection, and that's what this game is. This game is the Dying Earth role-playing game by Pelgrane Press, and it's beautiful. Now, Jack Vance wrote these wonderful books where he did this setting called the Dying Earth, and it's supposed to be eons and eons and eons in the future. It's kind of the last kind of lazy afternoon of the Earth. It's generally kind of accepted that, oh, one day the sun will go dark and all this will finish. So they're just kind of enjoying life as they can. This is a time of magic. Enormous wilderlands with little kind of separated, isolated communities doing their own thing. And magic. And the magic is just superb. It's just wonderful stuff. Now, you might recognise Jack Vance as one of the people on whom original D&D was founded. You'll find his work in the appendices in the back. And absolutely rightly so. The magic system from original D&D is called Vancian magic, where you can only store a certain number of spells in your head. This is all taken from Vance's books. But Jack Vance's magic had a whimsical and just absolutely lyrical quality to it. And that's what this game does. So the idea is you have 3 different levels of essentially power that you can play the game in. There's the Kugel level, which is based on the Kugel the Clever books. These books are the ultimate rogue scam artist novels. They are stories of someone who's essentially lost out in the wilderness trying to make his way home, and really all he's got is his wits and his moral flexibility to allow him to pilot his way home. There's the Turjan level, which were done for some other stories that Jack did, which have characters who are a bit more competent, they're a bit more combative, they've got magic spells that they can use. And then there's the Rialto level, based on the Rialto the Marvellous cycle in his books. And these are the Archmages, and the Archmages, they really almost, they're so high up on the magical scale that they almost don't bother with spells, because they control these beings called Sanderstons. And Sanderstons can control and correct reality to such an extent that they can do effectively anything. So these wonderful magicians have mancers, and they've got sidekicks, and they've got hobbies and so on. And because they've got lifespans measured in eons, you know, their hobbies and their little strange quibbles become very important to them, because you know they have to pass the time sometime. Every now and then they'll go off and inspect the surface of the sun, or one of the strange woods of the planet Arcanar, or whatever. But often they're very keen on sort of scoring points over fellow collectors and so on. So these are the 3 tiers. You have to decide which one you're embracing. Now, what's wonderful about this game is the character generation at the beginning. We all used to strength, dexterity, etc., etc. This game, it just has this wonderful idea. So first off, given the setting, everybody is 100% susceptible to all of the temptations that, you know, face mankind. So what you do is you get some points that you must split up between your different resistances to temptations. Everyone is 100% susceptible to temptations of indolence. Oh, given the chance to just lay in bed or just sponge around, or, oh, this place is very comfortable, you'll just stay there. Gluttony, romance and sex, alcohol, gambling, all these sorts of things. So you have to plan with a limited set of points what your resistance is to all these things. Now, Vance's work set up these wonderful situations where often conversation is what's important. And essentially in the rules, if it gets to combat, something's gone spectacularly wrong. You basically weren't smart enough to talk your way out of it. So this is a game that has that conversational conflict at its absolute heart. So what you do is you have to first decide upon what styles of persuasion you have. You pick between 6 different styles, and you could be glib, you could be very forthright. There are all these different styles you can choose, and it gives you little descriptions of what they are. You can have more than one, but you're essentially making a dice pool. You're putting a number of dice into these. Now, the next thing you have to do is pick your resistance to persuasion. And this is a series of other different things you can pick from a menu. There are 6 of these as well. So these are your rebuff skills. And they are things like you could be loyally. So no, you go through every single point and you're going to hyper-examine it and very slow, etc. You go through these. Now, what happens is certain persuasion styles trump certain rebuff styles. Likewise, certain rebuff styles trump certain persuasion styles. So if you are glib, you are trumped by someone who's loyally. If you're trying to sort of bum rush and just throw information at someone very quickly and skip on and hope they're confused, no, the guy that goes back and very goes through everything, that's kind of that's your Achilles heel right there. But you can switch to another conversational style. Combat is done in the same way. You then pick your combative style. My combative style is finesse. Mine is sheer style and grace. Mine is strength and brutality, etc. And you pick your defensive style. I'm ducking and dodging, or repartee, or just trying to sting him and goad him, or I'm very good at parrying. So, and again, some combat styles trump some defensive styles, and some defensive styles trump some attack styles. So you might want to pick more than one of each, but you've got a limited pool to pick these things from. So you make characters with these wonderful dice pools for your persuasion and your persuasion defense, your combat and your combative defense, your defense against all the temptations and so on. And of course, this is a game, you pick different skills and so on, but I do love a game where the character sheet has a separate section where you can describe your wonderfully ornate hat. For those of you who've actually read Vance's work, you'll understand how very important this is. You can also nominate some equipment that is going to be iconic to you. You have to pay points for it. The game and the books being what they are, if we take Cudgel for instance, you will face loss and you kind of have to embrace it. It's part of the fun of the character. You will make an absolute fortune and you'll be swindled out of it immediately, or you'll have to leave it behind in order to race off and save your life. You don't really care, you just kind of enjoy the little bits of it while you go, and it's all just part of the fun of the tale. But if you want to carry some bits onwards with you, you have to pay some points, and then you get a roll to retain them. This is iconic to me, and it keeps coming back, like your amazing hat, or some strange little, pectoral skybreak spatellite magical item that you get, or my mighty sword, or my incredible boots. And off you go. Now, for those of you who've chosen magical skills, you can learn a few spells at the Cudgel level. At the Turjan level, your characteristics are not capped so low. You can purchase higher characteristics and you can purchase magical spells. And there is a vast grimoire of these spells, and they are wonderful because Jack Vance's spells have names like the Spell of the Macroid Toe, which makes someone's big toe grow really huge. Fandal's Gyrator, which makes someone spin around and around and around and around, and around helplessly. The Spell of Forlorn Insistment, which basically puts someone in a hole in the ground. And these are they're all beautifully named, everything's wonderfully loquacious. You can pick spells that you know, and Vancing Magic, you can only store so many in your sensorium at any given time, but you can read your books and place different spells in your rather limited human memory. Now, if you are playing at the Rialto style, what you get is the ability to summon these things called Chugs. And Chugs are a creature that can somehow coerce Sanderstins. Sanderstins are these creatures that live almost beyond space and time. But essentially, what archmagicians do is they get these things trapped in bargains so that they have a certain number of indenture points. They owe you a number of favours. And the Chug is used to coerce them. But you need something done, you basically, I'll summon my Sanderstin, or you can carry it around with you. You can carry it around in a walnut shell, or it might turn into a giant purple feathered bird being that just follows you around. They're a bit capricious. They'll do virtually anything as long as it's stylish. And when you need a service, when you need something done, when you need time and space reordered for your own personal minor convenience, these things will do it. But they'll try and bargain with you to reduce their indenture points. When their indenture points are down, they go, and you have to go through all this rigmarole of getting another one. So, dealing with these things, you're back to that wonderful conversational system where you will say, oh, you know, my Sanderson, Laurencio, look, I've lost that item. I can't be bothered. You know what? I want you to go back in time to just before I lost it and just find it and bring it back to me. So, oh, well, of course, but obviously I'm currently watching your pots boiling in your workroom, so surely dividing my attention is worth more than one mere indenture point, you know, as I'm in effect in two places at one time. Couldn't that not be seen as two indenture points for the double effort? He's trying to get past you by being charming, and now you have to try and rebuff. And so every time you deal with these things, it's this wonderful plunge into the conversational system. All of your temptations, all of your skills, all of your persuasion and rebuff and so on, dice pools, will refresh themselves, but you have to do certain actions to refresh them. If you are very pedantic, you refresh your pedantry pool by basically going and having a bunch of arguments with people. If you are trying to refresh your resistance to gluttony and indolence, you have to basically have an enormous gut-stuffing meal with the finest possible viands and so on, and now you're basically all tanked up on that. You can resist the temptation more down the road. So it kind of brings you into kind of embracing the thing that you were trying to resist, which I rather like. Now, the other thing. Experience. Jack Vance's turn of phrase was just beyond superb, beautiful. His words are just wine. The experience system runs off using these. What the umpire does is he takes a whole bunch of sort of Vancian phrases, and there's a huge list of these in the rule book. And you'll get given these lines. There'll be a huge pile of these things, and characters are given a little fistful of these. If you can work this language into the role play, you gain experience for it. Has to be logically worked in. But these kind of guide the play a bit. So they are full of wonderful notions. So it's, pray accept this purse of money to relieve me of the tedium of carrying it. Because you would never say, here, I'm paying you. It's like, no, you just take this. I'm too lofty. So, this shall be our program. You step forward and face the monster. I will stand behind you. I'm ready to support you with further concepts. It's like, in other words, you go deal with the monster. I'm hanging back here. It kind of wonderfully promotes abject cowardice and cynicism and so on. So there's a guideline to how Vancian adventures run. And these tend to run off things like often isolated communities that you come into. These places have some strange customs. They have some intriguing attire, and they have there'll usually be a problem there. There'll be casual weirdness going on, and usually something involving food or drink or fashion. Some kind of interesting twists with that. So if we follow like a Kujal style path, you'll be wandering from place to place trying to go on a mighty mission for, an archmage or someone who's punished you, or you're just wandering, or you're trying to escape the local cops, and on you go. But because you've got no resources, you've got to try and bluff and find opportunity where you can and get ridiculous jobs or try gambling. And it's just this wonderful, wacky world of beautifully spoken rogues. And those taglines, if you aren't loquacious in that way, the taglines give it to you. So look, you've got this other neat thing where they've got all the monsters and so on, but in the books, Vance was often a bit vague about some of the monsters. There are some that we knew quite well, a flying creature called a Pelgrane. We're not quite sure what it is, but it'll describe, it's part insect, part stag, part banth, whatever a banth is. All right, well, it flies, obviously, and everyone's terrified of it. We don't quite know what this, but they're often about herbs and gids and lecomorphs and these sorts of things. So what they've done is they've actually provided several different creatures, and they've given them those names. You choose what it is in your world. This is what a gid is in your world. This is what a lecomorph is in your world. This is what an herb is. So it keeps people guessing. when you are in some kind of combat or conflict, by the way, is not necessarily sort of to the death. What you're doing when you're attacking, if it does get physical, you're attempting to basically deal a wallop. You're attempting to win these dice pool contests where you roll one and then he rolls one. You try and cap each other's roll. You're rolling a d6. 1, 2, 3 is a fails, but a 1 is a miserable failure. 4, 5, 6 is a win, but a 6 is an amazing pass. Someone's got to spend 2 dice from their pool to force you to re-roll a 6 and so on. So you wear each other's pools down. If you trump, people have got to spend 2 dice to try and roll against you, etc. These contests go on and on and on. But you've got these little taglines that you're doing. You've got all these refreshment of pools. So it just brings you into this beautiful world. Now, what they've done is there are a number of beautiful resources for this. So we have things like Askelae, Land of the Falling Wall, which is a huge descriptive book of this beautiful area that the books were set in. Lots of characters, lots of adventures, and beautiful setting information, just bringing things gorgeously to life. There's also a beautiful one for the city of Cain, which is a gorgeous, strange setting with odd tombs to delve into and strange things to look for. But one of the most beautiful game resources I've ever seen is the excellent Prismatic Spray. Now this is essentially like a fanzine or a magazine for the game. It comes out from Pelgrane, and it is full of articles and adventures and just strange things on interesting bits of equipment or strange things to find. And I mean, some of the people writing this, we've got stuff in here from Monty Cook and all these sorts of people. Like, this has been a popular thing to write for. Beautifully written, beautifully produced. And there's a whole stack of these that you can get just to sort of enhance your game. There are extra books for magic and so on, so you can enhance your experience. So look, this is one of those games that really should be played and celebrated. There is a Dying Earth game coming out as part of DCC, but that's going to be combat and bashing and killing and just D&D dice rolling. Whereas this is about conversation and glibly trying to talk someone out of things, and panache and wonderful hats and strange monsters that you can't quite describe. Day of Dance, a monster running up and you run into a room, close the door, and next thing the monster's politely knocking on the door. It's, what do you want? It says, oh, well, I would really like you to unlock the door because I want to come in and eat you. And no, I'm not unlocking the door. And this thing starts trying to talk. Well, look, can't you see that as a mortal being, clearly you are doomed eventually to die, but you might die in some ridiculous and useless way, whereas this way you provide a feast for me. So although it's a negative for you because you've died, the great joy that I feel will balance that, and therefore the universe is in balance. Whereas if you just go off and die, that's kind of a sad thing. So the universe has totally lost. So can you see it's very logically wrong for you to do that? Oi, no. So. But this is kind of the wonderful world these things live in. It's a spectacularly good game. It deserves way more love than it's gotten. A lot of people are sort of scared of it because of that talking, persuasive style, but it all just comes out in the play. Have a look at it. This is truly one of the most beautiful games you'll ever see. The way the rules are written and expressed is all in wonderful kind of roundabout Jack Vancian language. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. The artwork is tasteful and delightful, and it just handles creating that wonderful world, that eccentric, delicious, lyrical world, and it uses game systems that actually don't find themselves shoehorned into a world concept. The world has actually dictated these beautiful game systems that actually allow you to create that world for your players. A wonderful piece of work. Get out there and please have a look at this thing. It's all up there on the Pelgrane Press site, and have a look at it, and you absolutely will never regret having a look at the Dying Earth role-playing game. Cheers!